Hi there, masterpiece makers. If you're a business owner and your faith plays a significant role in your life and in your business, you're in for a treat with today's episode. Often we're led to believe that there's a ministry mindset and a business mindset. And I get it, it can be tricky and confusing. And honestly, it feels a little odd to blend the two mindsets because they don't seem to naturally align. I'm sure that at some point you've wondered if it's really practical and profitable to do this kind of business. As we kick off a new season on our show, I'll be chatting with the founder and chief creative director of the creative department, Bennie Smith Jr. He heads this sought after and rising creative agency based in Namibia, and he's going to provide us with great insight into what it means to be a real and thriving kingdom business. It's going to be a fun and insightful conversation, and I believe and I pray that you'll feel inspired and motivated to pursue your dream business after this episode. So stick around because on this show, we're very, very passionate about building your faith and inspiring your business. I am your host, Norbert Elnar, and welcome to the Making a Masterpiece podcast. Hey, Masterpiece Maker. Today, we are so privileged and honored to speak to an amazing guy all the way from the land of the brave, Namibia. I'm talking to the Chief Creative Officer and Director of the Creative Department. It's an amazing, amazing creative, full service creative agency based in Namibia. And we're going to talk about a lot of things today, and that includes how we are able to navigate our seasons as business owners, as brand leaders, from this small thinking of, you're just a small thing into a kingdom minded business and how that actually looks like. So, Benny, welcome to the show.
Gracias. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, we're so thrilled to have you here. And Benny, a lot of people do not really understand what a creative agency looks like. And they only see this on movies, but in a brief statement, can you describe to us what actually happens in a creative agency? And because it's not something that you walk into a mall and you find a creative agency. Like, what do you guys do?
It's not even a good idea to put in a mall because you have to operate according to their hours and everything, right? Because
Yeah.
we thought about that. Anyway, shameless, like addition to it all. What is a creative agency? Yeah, not to complicate it, there are many variables to it, but at the end of the day, a creative agency is an agency that creates. Like, you have to be creating things. So, and especially in today's domain where we have a digital era, we have digital platforms, we have multiple platforms in terms of like doing advertising and marketing, is that you bring creative services to that. So that's why it's such a broad term. You can go into video production, photography, graphic design, the whole enchilada. But why limited there? Why can't a creative agency also do like wall art for companies? Why can't we do like, all these other creative inputs as well? So a creative agency is an agency that creates. So
Wow.
that's my translation. Yeah.
Just to paint a picture, like maybe people think that creative agencies is only made available for big businesses. Can small businesses also access creative agencies?
Definitely. I think it's more small companies that really need to step and collaborate with creative agencies because especially if you're in your place of finding yourself, you're like still very much a blank canvas to start developing a lot of things. So I definitely encourage, and I would say even from my side, doing businesses, my favorite people to work with is SMEs, small startups, entrepreneurs that are getting going. Those are the fun guys to work with because there's just so much potential still to be developed. So definitely small companies is, I would say, definitely best place to start by all means.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. And before we go further, and we're on the topic of the creative agency, you guys actually did not start as like a full-blown creative agency.
No.
And based on my research, I know that you actually led a a ministry, in particular, a youth ministry. You were the youth pastor of a certain church in the youth group there in Namibia. It's an interesting story. How did you end up in a creative agency, and what was that transition like from running a youth ministry and now a full-blown creative agency?
So yes, that is correct. That is where I started, and somehow we ended up here. And perhaps I'm still figuring out how we got here. So I mean, yes, I started in youth ministry when I was 16. We didn't have a youth pastor in our church. We were 2 years without a youth pastor, and then one day we were at a home cell, and one of the people in the group, they said, like, listen, we need to pray for someone to take up this role. And as we were sitting there, I just felt like this calling, like this conviction come upon me and saying, like, are you willing to take it up? Are you willing to follow me? Are you willing to step into this? Everybody were praying and they said amen. I was like, okay, here I am. You prayed for a youth pastor. Here I am.
Wow,
And
that's an instant answered prayer then.
just instantly, yeah, and I availed myself to it. And if you think starting a business is exciting, step into youth ministry, my bro. It's a roller coaster. So yeah, but youth ministry is, when we stepped into that, I mean, very much it's about discipling people, leading people into discovering their identities and helping them find their position in their role to play in the kingdom, and also their role to play and fulfill in their journey in life. And so very much that's where I found myself into that. I realized I had a very strong teaching skill, meaning I was very good at instilling information and communicating information to people. And that happened through teaching the Bible and teaching the word to people. And not just teaching the word to people, I focused on teaching people how to read the word for themselves. So that was really my focus in that. And then through that, you start building volunteer groups. You start putting them into different areas in the church. You yourself, you're involved with, like, okay, I'm the youth pastor now, but we need somebody behind the soundboard. We need somebody to set up the PowerPoint presentations, and you're discovering all these mediums. And eventually that led to just being able to acquire so many skills. And so essentially I started, I actually have to rewind a bit there. I first started basically in media and then stepped into youth ministry. And so, and then that kind of like formed into this, hey, well, we could do these creative things in the youth group and really make it exciting. And I mean, you yourself serving in ministry, and like with youth, you got to go big, man. You got to like, go always outside the box. It's like, we almost killed someone last week. Well, we're not going to try and do that again, but we got to amp it up,
I think that's the joy and the beauty of youth ministry combined with media, because there's things that can happen in the youth ministry, and some of them we forget, but some of them really teach us valuable lessons. And so you went to media, and then you were in the youth ministry. But what was the cross? How did that happen?
Yeah. So you start putting people into places and positions, right? You try and get people involved in all that. So you really learn to be a leader and a manager, so to speak, in this role. And I started pursuing something in photography. I really like photography. So for a while I was doing my own business of photography, but I am not somebody that can do things alone. That was the one thing I learned very quickly, is that I need a collaboration team. I like bouncing ideas off of people and those kind of stuff. I always surrounded myself with multiple people. And through that, like I said, I have a teaching skill. So we kept teaching, and eventually people acquired these skills. And at some point you reach the ceiling, and it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And so then some of the guys came together and said, all right, we need to create something for creative people. So we are in Walvis Bay in Namibia. It's an industrial town. So it's a harbor town. There's like shipyard where they build ships and fix ships, and we're a harbor town, a port town. So a lot of industrial logistics and engineering, not a lot of creative stuff happening. And so out of a frustration for this community needing something creative, having all these guys on board to do creative things, we said, okay, cool. We approached our church, who prior 5 years ago moved into a building, and we asked them about this other building that's vacant. And we asked them, like, could we use this building as basically a blank canvas to create, like, at that point, we were very on the buzzword incubator for creative people. And the church said, by all means, it's vacant, use it. And so basically the point there was to create just a platform where creative people could come and somehow, listen, there was no plan at this point, but creative people would come and we would just like bounce ideas and everything.
That's actually where everything starts, right?
Yes.
There's a frustration, and then you create
Yes.
something to address the frustration, and then you build a plan out from there.
The problem was like we got too much space. Like that was the thing. I think it's good for businesses to have a journey of like you starting on the small point and going incrementally growing into what it is. We got this massive facility and we were like 2 3 people and we're like, now what? You know? And we slowly but surely with our youth group, we started collaborating with people, started seeing people have passions and potential. And so we started like basically what would you say? Asking these people, hey, well, are you passionate about poetry? And then why don't you start a poetry movement? Hey, you're passionate about music. Why don't you start like a music school and all these things? And so through that, we started putting people creatively in positions and places. And today those things are running. And then, so how did we become a creative agency? Well, I don't know if you remember what happened in 2020, but the whole
Oh,
world came to like a
yeah.
standstill. And this is where the journey actually like we went from just collaborative space to actual business. And what happened was during the pandemic there was this big trend called the Jerusalem challenge. Some people think it's a joyous song. Edit 20 plus videos with that song in the background, my people, you will experience PTSD. Like not a fun tool. So yeah, during the pandemic, we were helping a lot of churches set up their live streaming and all those things. And so because we were doing all these media stuff during the pandemic, helping churches set up their media, helping them get up on live streaming, when businesses were doing the Jerusalem challenge, they were like, well, you guys do video projects. So can you guys not come in and shoot our video and get us going? And we were like, yeah, I mean, we've got free time. We said yes. And this is how we became a business, Norbert. The weirdest way that we've become a business was we did a video for one massive company and the video was fire, went viral on their page, everything got like 20,000 hits in a week. And then we were like, okay, so when are we getting paid for this? And they were like, okay, our procurement needs you to be a registered business in order for these things to go through properly. And then we were like, oh snap.
And you have to register then.
And then we registered a business and that's how we became a business.
Wow, that's a very unusual way of doing business, but the good thing is that you made it through, and the rest is history, I suppose.
Correct. I mean, for
Wow.
me, it was I think like I share with people that I think at some point God is very patient with you, but at some point he's just like, okay, my boy, you gotta move. So the only way I'm gonna get you to move, yeah, you gotta get paid, so you gotta get registered, and yeah. So let's just say God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I love that story because it's born out of passion and that you really found purpose in it. I can imagine the pressure that you probably went through being entrusted with a project like that, but you gave it your all, and then suddenly it's now a proper and profitable business, which is, I think, a very, very important thing. Do you feel called to build something incredible, but self-doubt is holding you back? Do you have a God-given vision burning inside you, but are unsure if you're truly on the right path? Well, stop feeling stuck and join the Masterpiece Kingdom Brand's free online course, The 7 Signs You Are a Kingdom Brand. Discover the key traits of a kingdom brand and gain the clarity and confidence you need to pursue your God-sized dream. This on-demand course will provide you with a 10-part video series exploring a 7-sign checklist that will clear the confusion, ignite your inspiration, and ease your anxieties. We understand the fear that comes with taking that leap of faith, so you don't have to walk this path alone. You can finally break free from feeling stuck and embark on the incredible journey that awaits you. Visit www.masterpiecebrands.com and sign up for the free 7 Signs You Are a Kingdom Brand online course today. Benny, I am curious because you are working with a lot of brands and the small ones and the big ones. And I am just curious about your process. How do you inspire your creative team, making sure they are always, innovative and having fresh ideas? Because when you're the one behind the scene and doing all the creation, it can be a little stressful. So how do you guys do that?
Collaboration.
Mm.
Collaborations. It's the number one thing I think that helps creative people really flow. I know creatives tend to have a mindset like, if I have my own space and my own little area, I can flourish. And I respect that. We all need a little like space that we really can live ourselves out and all. But to get, like you said, in to be innovative, like to really get into a mindset that where you're constantly, aspiring to the next thing, is really to work with the community and work together with other people. And the thing is, I know this for like out of my own experience and working in youth ministry with young people, especially creative temperaments, people with more of a creative mindset, is creatives, for lack of a better term, energy. We don't get like a lot of developmental mind encouragement out of competitive domains. Once there's a competition to it, unless you really are a competitive person by nature, but the
Mm-hmm.
majority of creatives, we just want to create. And we are by all means the most harshest critics of our own work.
Absolutely. Mm.
And yeah, I hope it never falls into nihilism, but you'll actually realize most creative people, they have like a cynicism to them. Putting yourself amongst people that are really excited to work with you and excited about the thing that you're interested in, all that really creates a place where you inspire one another and you encourage
Mm.
one another. And it's always interesting to see, okay, hey, my brother, this guy is doing this and all that. And that will maybe inspire you to do something else, and collaboration will create things. So I say that the key thing to innovating and creating is collaboration.
Wow.
And to stay innovative is learn your own process. There's a science to, or there's probably something to first copying others and, learning their methods and getting better at it. But if you are somebody that can really be mindful in understanding what gets you going and what gets you set and ready to perform the best, then I think you're going to be the best creative there is. Because let me give you like a bit of a funny thing that I do. One of my clients, I'm very grateful for. In fact, this very
Mm.
client, I told you at the beginning that you guys need to be registered in order to get paid.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for them because when they saw us, they saw the potential. And so the person who works in marketing, he said something to me. He said, listen, you figure out what it is that you need to do to bring the best to the table, and we will roll with how you need to do that.
Wow.
And it was a very weird thing for him to say that. I was like, okay, let me shrug it off. But when I went to go reflect and think about it, actually, then I was like challenged to really like come up with, okay, what did he mean? And basically what I figured out was, if a client calls me and says, hey, we need a meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and you need to bring like creative strategy or creative input, but I know I first have to go play guitar, or I need to go for a walk outside and all that to get my brain going so that I can bring the best value to that meeting. Then I'll tell
Mm-hmm.
that client, can we shift it to 11 o'clock? Because I still need to put myself through the process to bring the
Mm.
best value to the table. And that's why I say, if
Mm.
one of the best things you can do is collaborate with people, you learn from their processes, and you develop your own sense of understanding how you
Yeah.
yourself innovate. So I think that's something that I think if everybody practices that, then you'll actually be developmental in your course. So
100%. I think it's a journey of self discovery and what works. I think you can learn from people. And I always tell people that sometimes, we see the success of how people do it, but
hmm,
it's not really a formula sort of that
correct.
can automatically apply for us. We need to discover our own process to bring out the best. That's really,
Yeah.
really great. And I mean, talking about brands and businesses like this, that's what you said, they saw your potential and then they're ready to roll with you. And that's very rare, I suppose, because not
Hmm.
every company gives you that kind of opportunity. And my question is, in an industry like this, we are tasked to communicate. What do you think is the major difference between a kingdom minded business and a normal business, if that makes sense?
I have this phrase that I actually learned from my mentor. And so it adds to what this question, which is, I struggled with that coming out of ministry into business. So you're coming from a ministry mindset into business. And I felt very, what do you call it? Intimidated. Like, I'm not a business
Mhm.
mind. I'm a culture mind. I can get people together and like get them going and all that. And then he just looked at me and he said, so what's the difference between kingdom and business? And I didn't give an answer for him. And he said, like, do you think if you do business in a way that cannot be done in the kingdom, do you think that's right? And I said, no, that's corruption. He said, uh-huh. So being a kingdom minded business is really a business that understands its role, that it's kingdom, king of kings, lord of lords. So you're not just appeasing your business is not just appeasing to what your client base needs or what your own aspirations is. There's a goal and a standard to really honor the king of kings and the Lord of Lords. And
Wow.
so kingdom-minded business needs to understand that there's this phrase. I can't remember where I heard this phrase. I don't know if I read it in a book. It could be that I heard it in a song, but I put it in the building where we started. I put it on the wall. I said,
Mm.
we are children of the creator, yet we are so slow to create.
Mm.
And that thing is constantly like a confrontation to me.
Mhm.
And as kingdom-minded businesses, yes, we must operate at a different standard. Yes, we must operate at a different level. And if you're really kingdom-minded, that means you're also biblical-minded. And I think then here's the real challenge, Norbert. Like, here's the real
Mm.
challenge. How do you market and brand in the world today by not conforming to its ways? And because we are called to reform, transform, and not conform.
Yeah, I agree. That's the $1 million question.
That's the thing. Here's the pastoral answer. The Holy Spirit will guide you and inspire you 100%.
Mhm.
How do I align myself in that? Take up your cross and carry it every single day. In other words, show
Yeah,
up, show
yeah.
up, take the responsibility, show up, and understand this thing I said earlier about, aligning yourself, understanding how you work and all that. It's also a kingdom thing. When you understand your role in the kingdom, you need to understand when David was a shepherd boy, how am I going to be the best shepherd? Because being the
Mm.
best shepherd is going to prepare me to be a king of a nation.
Yeah.
When I'm looking after the sheep, I'm going to learn how to use my slingshot, right?
Mhm.
And you would think
Yeah.
using a slingshot against a giant, bad idea, stupid
Yeah.
idea. Even his brothers and his friends, even Saul was like, my friend, put on my armor,
Yeah.
at least take my sword. But
Yeah.
that's again, now we're conforming. We're putting on the
Mm.
world's armor. We're putting on things. We become insecure because we're trying to do things in a way that's not kingdom. Meanwhile, just go back to the thing God gave you. Just
Mhm.
go use
Amen.
your slingshot. Just go use the same thing that got you going. I promise you, it's always interesting. You listen to these big moguls when they talk about their business stuff like this. We're always looking for the secret, this like
Yeah.
this intense thing. And then it's always like this simple thing of like you keep showing up, you do the work, and no matter what challenge comes against you, you face it, you keep going. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, snap.
That is so true. Most of the time, we think there's like that secret code or like this holy grail of doing things, but biblically speaking, we just really work with what's given in your hands, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
the same way that Moses did and Joseph, David, and everybody who came before us did the same. And I love what you said that, understanding your role and playing your part, showing consistently and making sure that whatever you do is really honoring the Lord. And I think in business, in branding, in creative work, that's absolutely achievable and doable.
100%. From a
Wow.
branding aspect, like just to put it this way, because I hope I did answer the previous question. So, but
Yeah.
just from a branding aspect, the way I think that we eventually, because our creative agency, we like ultimately formed into a brand management business.
Mm.
And for me, that focused on everything that, again, I using the slingshot. When I was in ministry, what was my role? My role was to help young people discover their identity, and discover
Mm.
it in Christ and discover their roles and all that. What do we do as brand builders and marketing people? We help businesses discover their identity, discover where their positions are, who are they supposed to serve? In other words, who's their market? And so
Mm.
the thing is, it's actually not that complex. It's the basis of it is very, very to the point. And the thing is, I try to complicate it, but the moment and again, people, one of the other best things you can do is get yourself a mentor, really,
Yeah.
right? In kingdom, you're shepherded by a pastor. In business, get yourself a shepherd. It's really very good. And my mentor just looked at me and he said as well, like, so all that you're doing is basically, he just clicked that thing for me, that moment. What's the difference between kingdom and business? Why did you do this thing so well in the kingdom? And now you feel confronted, you can't do this in business. Is it not just the
Mm.
same thing,
Yeah.
but a
The other way
different,
around. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
same application, different sphere, and that's it.
Wow. Wow. That's absolutely the truth. I can just drop the mic, but I won't because it's expensive. Like, that's really, really the truth. There's this saying here in Masterpiece that we always tell people that your passion, when you use your passion, that's also refers to your identity. When you use your passion, align it to the purposes of God, it actually creates a masterpiece that unlocks the destiny that has
Amen.
for you. And that's what
100%.
we're really, really, really believing. And Benny, my last question would be like, in this industry, it's a tough one. And I can feel you that,
Yeah,
there's
we're
that.
fighting tears at the moment.
Yeah.
They
It's one thing that you see like a message that's out there that doesn't say anything that's not God honoring. And it's a crazy world in the marketplace. My question is, as a creative director, what legacy do you aspire to leave in the industry, and what would you like to be remembered for and known for? As Bennie Smith Jr.
Hectic. So no, I think for me, and this is how you know when you love what you do is when you do that thing that fills your cup constantly, even in the struggle and all that, it feels burdenish, but it still pours into your cup. Then you know you're doing the right thing, right? So for
Mm,
me, the alignment with that is creating opportunities. And for me, creating opportunities, not just in helping people be positioned into being able to do things, but them really being aligned with their purpose as well. Like them being able
mm,
to answer this question. I mean, that was what I did as a youth pastor, and that's what I want to do in my business as well. So, just adding again to the collaboration point, like, so we have a phrase in our business we call connect, create, collaborate. And
mm,
as long as I'm connecting with people and helping them create and doing it in a way that where two and three are gathered, God is there, and we can create things together. That's actually where the name, our previous name used to be the Rendezvous. And so we were
mm,
like, we're two and three rendezvous together. That's where that came from before we were creative department. But what legacy do I want to leave behind is somebody that created a platform where that keeps going. I think a lot of times you want to leave something that makes your name. I don't care. Like Benny is just a servant. I'm an activator by nature. So I am somebody who gets things going. I'm not necessarily somebody that sees all the things through, but
yeah,
that's why you collaborate with people that do that. So
yeah,
you give
yeah.
them that role to finish the thing. So you get it going, they get it, see it through. And so to answer your question, my legacy would be somebody that created a platform that where collaboration and opportunity for creatives exist for them to align with something that can really sustain themselves and ultimately help them align themselves with their own purpose. And because we are in the business of identity, brand identity, and all that, the fact that I get to work with personal people and still help them figure out their identities and how that plays into the role of being creative
Mm,
and serving in business, that for me, man, that's my fuel. Because ultimately, that is what God is doing where I am no longer able to do anything. And
wow.
so I hope that answer that's what I really want,
That
and I really want to see that happen, man.
beautiful. I just love it. I love it that we we get to do this and we get to actually help brands figure out their identity and their greater purpose. Wow. Benny, it has been an amazing conversation, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very blessed to hear your story, and thank you for pouring your heart out. How can our listeners get hold of your creative department, and where
Yes,
can they go, and how can they collaborate with you?
sure thing. Yeah, so we're based in Namibia. It's a small country in the southern part of Africa. So come check us out, visit us. That's my invitation. That's an invite to actually physically come here. But if you are trying to reach us, you can email me at Bennie, Bennie, at creativedepartment.com.na for Namibia. So, and you can check out our website, creativedepartment.com.na.
Wow. Thank you so much, Benny. Masterpiece Makers, that was such a treat. Thank you, Benny. We are so excited for you guys. Thank you, Creative Department, for creating and amazing things that are God honoring and glorifying God in that side of the world. And we are so excited for your future.
Thank you, man. Thank you for this. And thank you for everything you're doing for the kingdom, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to our conversation. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Making a Masterpiece.